Okay, the time is 7 p.m. here, and I'm going to call the meeting of December 17th meeting of the Millcreek Board of Supervisors to order. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As a reminder for all those in attendance here, this meeting is being recorded. You can see the recorder or the camera. It doesn't look like one, but it's sitting right next to Cheryl there on that stand. It will be broadcast on Spectrum Channel 1024 and also on our YouTube channel with closed captioning available on both of those networks. Next item is number 3, public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Hopefully everybody has a copy of the agenda there. Is there any comment other than zoning or land development applications? Are there any? Okay, being none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes of our prior meeting. Any additions or corrections among you guys? Jim? John? Okay, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the November 26th meeting minutes.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 5 is approval of the bills. You have the batch there, and also there was one extra that was sent out via paper. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 6 is the adoption of the 2020 General Fund and Capital Fund budgets. I'm going to turn this briefly over to Mark Shahesky for some comments. If you want to bring us up some highlights and what we need to know about it.
Sure, thanks, John. The preliminary budget that was published on November 26th remained largely unchanged in its final form. The one item that's semi-significant was the insurance proceeds for the Wolf Run property damage from the leaky pipe. That initially I had anticipated that being a 2020 item, and we in fact received those proceeds this month. So I had to move it out of 2020 back into 2019.
Okay.
The other item, although this is sewer fund, we didn't have the final treatment and transport numbers from the city of Erie, and those came in and they're about $30,000 higher than we had in the initial preliminary budget, but still able to maintain the $84 a quarter rate as a result of that. Other changes were insignificant and probably less than total, $50,000 in total across the entire budget.
Okay. So in summary, what would be the numbers total operating expense that we're seeing for the and budget for the 2020 year?
Just a second.
Yeah, let me pull back here myself. It's in a $27 million range.
Yes.
Yeah.
There should be actually a chart.
Yeah, there's a pie chart right at the beginning.
Like
I
3
believe.
pages in.
Yeah, just want to give the people the highlights here of.
Oops, too far.
Yeah. Jeez.
It's 4 pages in.
There we go.
Okay, the total revenue for 2020 operating budget is $26,600,034, and total operating expenses are $27,796,302.
Okay.
The difference between revenue and expense will be made up from the surplus in the fund balance.
Okay. Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Anybody? John, Jim? I think we did a great job again this year of holding the cost down and doing what we can with what we have. So I want to hand it to all our department heads for the great job that they have done. I think that sentiment is echoed among the board here. So any comments there, boys, guys? Anything? Nothing? No, okay. Call for a motion on the 2020 General Fund and Capital Fund budgets.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2020 General Fund and Capital Fund budgets.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I will second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Our next item is number 7, which is the adoption of the 2018?
No, it's supposed to be 2020.
2020, a typo
This is-
on that, no problem. Sewer Revenue Fund budget. I'll turn it back over to Mark.
Once again, I hit the highlights on that.
Okay.
The revenue for the sewer fund is $10,137,942, and the operating expenses are, let's see. Well, the total expenditures are 9,153,7. Computers, sometimes they're a pain. 9,153,758, of which 1,628,500 is capital expenditures, primarily sewer improvements at 1,322,000 even.
Okay.
The others, equipment, various pieces of equipment.
Okay, and our rate will still be $84 a
Still
quarter?
be $84.
Okay, which I know we get some comments from the public once in a while regarding the rates, and quite honestly, from what we know of other municipalities and their sewer rates, this is at the lower end of the cost. There are some municipalities that are spending as much as $100 per month, especially where they have some new lines put in and areas that have not been served by sewers that are now, and then everybody's rates gets raised up to about $100 a month. So we're still doing very well in that aspect there. So anyway, do I have any other comments among the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to act on that budget.
Make a motion to approve the 2020 sewer revenue fund budget.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 8 is the tax levy resolution, Resolution 2019 R65. It's a resolution by the board fixing the Millcreek Township tax rate for the year 2020. And I'll just cut right to the chase here. The tax rate for the general township purpose, the sum of the tax of each dollar of assessed valuation and the sum on each $100 of assessed valuation is 3.3977 mils. Therefore, it's 0.33977 cents per $100 of value. This is not an increase. This is still what it has been for the last 7 years, I believe. The tax rate for maintaining the revolving fund, creating a use in making capital improvements before the collection of all of our property owners. The sum tax on each dollar is 0.1560 mils, and which equates to 0.1560 cents per $100 of assessed value. So with all of that said, that is the tax rate that would be set for the 2020 calendar year. Comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2019 R65.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Our next item is bids and quotations. It's item number 9 on the agenda. We have, let's see here, a 2003 Crown Victoria bid results and award from the Public Works Department. Gary, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yes, it's time to get rid of one of our other antiques. It's been sitting on the hill for a while. We received 5 bids that ranged from $500 to $1,250. It would be my recommendation that we take the $1,250 bid and get rid of another one of our antiques off the hill.
Okay, this is an old police car with what,
Yes.
300,000 miles?
Actually, it was the one Rick Morris used
Okay,
for several years.
okay. Okay, so that's what you're recommending is the bid of $1,250?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. Questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion on that action.
Make a motion to approve the sale of the 2003 Crown Vic, price of $1,250 to Mr. Dean Carlson.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item under bids and quotations is from, once again, Public Works. This would be for the cobblestone storm sewer replacement change order. Gary, back to you.
The contract to replace 40 linear feet of 18-inch HDPE pipe, which was failing, potentially causing a slope failure at the above address, was awarded to Consul Construction for a lump sum price of $19,000 at the November 12th, 2019 Supervisors meeting. During construction, it was determined that more riprap was necessary to adequately hold the bank back where the new pipe outletted than was originally considered. The R4 rock was supplied by the township but hauled and placed by the contractor. Payment was by time and equipment method. The total overage was $732 and is broken down on the attached sheet. Public Works would recommend approval of the change order. The original contract was for $19,000, and with the change order, it would take it to $19,732.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I guess my only question is for Mr. Krzyzewski. Does it require another budget amendment to add 732 to the project, or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're going to have two actions then. Budget amendment.
That's my only comment. I don't know if
Okay.
Mr. Bach has any further comments.
Yep. You have anything, Jim?
No.
Questions, comments? Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
Are we going to do the amendment presently, or?
I'm thinking we probably should. Or we should do that first.
Or,
I'm assuming we have 732 in the reserve line.
Yes.
Okay. Move that money around.
I'd make a motion to authorize a capital budget amendment to shift additional $732 into the Cobblestone Drive Storm Sewer Replacement Project from reserves. This will make that, I'll make that more a motion first for the first action.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll
motion?
second that.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, let's move on to the
I know.
item on the agenda there then.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 for the Cobblestone Drive Storm Sewer Replacement Project.
Okay, and do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is public hearings on subdivision and land development plans. Our first one is from the Millcreek Township School District for a small subdivision. This action was tabled from the November 26th meeting. It's a small subdivision to show the creation of a 3.8 acre lot with a residual of 9.68 acres located at the southwest intersection of West 38th and Asbury Road in Tract 313, index number 419-050. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you very much. At the regular meeting of Tuesday, November 12th, 2019, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this subdivision.
Okay. Okay, is there anybody here representing the school district that wants to talk about it? If you'd come up front here, tell us about it.
Good evening. My name is Aaron O'Toole, and I'm the Director of Finance and Operations with the district. The intent of us subdividing is selling a smaller portion of the subdivision to child development centers, which is won the child development program for Erie County.
Okay. Okay, then. Any questions or comments from the board for the applicant? Nope. No. Okay. I think that. Is there anyone else here to speak on this matter? This is for the Millcreek School District subdivision. Okay, being no other comment there, we'll call for a motion. Do I hear a motion on that?
Make a motion to approve the small subdivision for Millcreek Township School District.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Our next one under subdivision and land development plan applications for Caroline Mills, a small subdivision to show the creation of a 2.84 acre lot with a residual lot of 5 acres located along the south line of Norcross Road west of Martin Road in tract 334. It's Millcreek index number 912-006. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. At their regular meeting of Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this subdivision.
Okay. And is anybody here representing Caroline Mills? Do we have somebody here?
Supervisor, I'm Rick Steinberg. I'm here on behalf of Caroline Mills.
Okay.
This property is a kind of a mixed-use property. On the parcel proposed to be subdivided off, there's a business known as Railrider. And that Railrider builds loading systems for enclosed trailers. It's been operating on the property for in excess of 6 years. The property being subdivided off has always been zoned light industrial for many, many years. It's zoned light industrial extending about 200 feet from the railroad tracks. Beyond that 200 feet extension from the railroad tracks, it's zoned residential. This subdivision makes sense, and it will separate the property that's zoned light industrial from the property that's light zoned residential
Okay.
in 1-2 parcels.
Okay. You have a copy of the map?
Mr. Waldinger, we don't seem to have a copy of the subdivision here. Do you have it?
I do not have it either, no.
Okay.
Would
Yeah.
it be available in the office somewhere?
Oh, yeah, I can get it if you'd like me to. Yes, I will grab it.
We're going to take a quick recess here, less than 5 minutes. Yeah, I did too, but Mr. Sundberg, you're coming back up front here then, okay. Same thing, okay. We got enough there. Okay.
Mr. Waldinger, does this create a landlocked parcel? Or am I?
No, it does not.
Creates
There
a-
is
a
it's
flag
flag
lot.
lot, yes.
Were there any concerns expressed at the planning commission meeting about this?
At the planning commission meeting, no, there were not. We did receive an email from someone who was unable to attend tonight's meeting. The concerns expressed by this person had more to do with, I think they believed that the subdivision was going to create multiple building sites. They were concerned with the traffic being generated by multiple homes, the effects on the wells by multiple homes. Unfortunately, they're not here to see the actual subdivision and realize that it's already existing buildings.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Sundberg, do you know if the owners are intending to do anything with that other than the subdivision along the zoning lines?
No, you'll see the parcel A there
Yes.
is the light industrial area.
That's right.
And coming 200 feet off of, extending 200 feet off of the railroad there.
Righto.
And that's where the rail rider manufacturing facilities are operated. You see the buildings that are located there.
Okay.
Again, the house and the garage you'll see on the residue lands of Carolina Mills, which is the 5 acres.
Okay.
She is retaining that and is going to continue to live there. It's a residentially zoned area.
Right.
She's going to continue to use it as a residence.
Okay.
And again, the parcel A is already zoned light industrial, and it makes sense to separate that from the residential zoned area as a separate parcel, and that will be conveyed to the principal owner of Rail Rider.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions among the board here? Okay. And Matt, just for clarification, the planning commission approved, they recommended approval?
Yes,
That
they
is, I'm
recommended
sorry?
approval, yes.
Okay, no conditions or anything on that, okay? Okay, then. Is there anyone else here to speak on this matter? This is for Caroline Mills on Norcross Road. Being no other comments, we'll move to action on this.
I'll make a motion to approve the small subdivision plan for Karen Mills.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Excuse me. Okay, next item on the agenda is item number 11, public hearing on a petition requesting conditional use. I'm going to turn this over briefly to Mark Shaw, our solicitor, for an explanation.
Sure. These are two appeals that will be following, and they're following a new procedure that was implemented as a result of recent amendments to the sign ordinance. Section 14587 of the ordinance, conditional uses. So as a result, in order to put up a new sign in those locations, those uses have to be approved. The conditions for use are that the use of the property must be a legal use. The applicant must demonstrate that they meet all the requirements of Section 14587 with respect to size and so forth. If the sign's an electronic message center, it must also meet the requirements of Section 14589. And then the supervisors may, in their discretion, attach such reasonable safeguards as it may deem necessary to implement the purposes of the zoning ordinance. The procedure follows the same procedure as we do with other hearings. The township would present the petition and the recommendation of the planning commission, and then the person seeking the condition must present their position, and then any members of the public may testify as well, and at the end, close the hearing and vote by the supervisors.
Okay. Okay, so from a procedural standpoint, the applicant must come up first before we hear anything from that?
The township, follow the same
Township.
process we do
Okay.
with most of our
Okay.
hearings. The township presents first, and then the
Okay.
applicant can come
Want to
up.
get that for clarification. Okay, our first item on this one would be for a sign at 11:0, or signs, that is, at 1101 Peninsula Drive, for conditional use for new signs. Matt, I'll just turn it over to you then. Let you handle it.
Thank you very much. As Mr. Shaw mentioned, the applicant must meet 4 conditions. The first condition that the property is, that the sign is being proposed for is a legal use. This is proposed for an eating and drinking establishment, which is allowed in the RC district. Second, the applicant shall demonstrate all requirements of section 14587 are met. In regards to this application, that would be that the maximum square footage of the sign isn't more than what is permitted. Currently, they are permitted to have 72 square feet of signage, and they are proposing 60 square feet. And also that the color and materials are compatible with the area, and we believe them to be. Number 3 refers to if it's an electronic message center, which this is not, so it does not apply. And then number 4 would be any reasonable conditions that the board may wish to place on this approval. At their regular meeting of November 12th, 2019, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this conditional use.
Okay. And I failed to mention at the beginning, this is for Bob's Steakhouse, which is going to be located in the Peninsula Plaza there.
Yes.
Where the CVS and, you know, that L-shaped plaza there.
Yes.
Okay, do we have anybody here representing Bob's Steakhouse or the sign company? If you would, please come forward.
My name is Jake Light, representing Fast Signs. I'm here just to make sure we're allowed to have more square footage for the signs. The first time around, they were going to be a little bit more proportionately small to the building, so this is just to allow bigger space for their marketing and everything like that. The signs close to the road wasn't quite enough, so this is just asking for more space to utilize for the marketing strategies.
Just to clarify, you're asking for a different, something different than what the Planning Commission recommended?
No, I'm sorry. This is already moved to approve. This amount of square footage is what we're planning to do now.
Okay.
I believe this is larger than the previous tenant, though, had
Gotcha.
on the building. But it's still within the limits permitted.
Oh, Mr. Valding, the renderings we received, there's a sheet that has 4 images that are crossed out.
The original application was seeking to have that additional signage. That would have put them over the limit, so they chose to eliminate those 4 additional sign panels on the sides of the building.
Okay.
And are just sticking with the Bob's Steakhouse on the west and south frontage.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's just to approve the 2 locations on the building? Then?
Yes.
All right. Does the zoning office have any concerns about this?
We do not.
Were there any other comments from the public at the Planning Commission hearing?
No, no one appeared in regards to this.
Okay. Okay. Anything else from the applicant or for the applicant? Okay. Okay, since this is a conditional use hearing, we also have the opportunity to hear from the public. Is there anybody here who would like to comment in regard to this application? Okay, we'll note for the record that no one wishes to make any comment on this particular matter. Okay, with that being said, the hearing part of this is closed. So calling for an action on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the Fast Signs conditional use application as presented.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I'll also vote yes. We also have another sign application, and this is for Amanda Poprosky. I hope I pronounced that right. For property located at 3071 West 12th to install new signage in an RC Resort Commercial District. And this is for Millcreek Index 251-007. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Again, there are the 4 conditions that are required for a conditional use. The first is that the property is a legal use. This would be personal services, which are permitted in the Resort Commercial District. They must demonstrate they meet all requirements of Section 14587. In regards to this sign, that would be they're within the maximum square footage. They are proposing an 18.125 square foot sign where they are permitted up to 33 square feet, so it's less. And also a requirement of this section, since it's a monument sign, they must have a planting area around the sign equal to the square footage of the sign. So they must have 18.125 square feet of planting area around the sign, and they propose more than that. Number 3 is in regards to if it's an electronic message center, which this is not, so it does not apply. And then 4 would be any conditions that the board chooses to impose. At the December 3rd, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this conditional use.
Okay. Okay, do we have anyone here representing Ms. Paprosky? Okay.
Hello, good evening. I'm Amanda Peprowski, and I'm opening a small spa on West 12th Street, located at 3071 West 12th Street in Millcreek.
Okay.
I did bring some, Mr. Puz suggested that maybe I bring some extra copies of our little landscaping idea, if anybody would like a copy.
Sure. Please submit them, yes. I don't know how many copies you have, but you'll want to make sure that Ms. Williams gets a copy of that too for the record.
Okay. It's a 5-foot by 8-foot landscaped area around the sign. I'd like to do perennials around it so it's easier to maintain and looks better for long term.
Okay, now we have,
Mr. Walters, as far as the plant requirements around the monument sign, is that considered part of the sign permit that will be issued to maintain the plantings as well as the sign itself?
Yes, that's part of the sign ordinance, that they maintain that.
Are there any concerns expressed at the Planning Commission?
No, no one appeared in regards to this petition.
The zoning office have any concerns?
No, we do not.
okay. Okay, we have a copy of the sign there. It says Spa Lapis, is that how it's pronounced, or Lapis? Lapis Spa, then the address on it there. Nice looking sign. That's double faced, of course. Is that right?
It is doubled, but I wasn't sure which way it would be facing, so I just had both sides done.
Okay.
Here for
Sure. Okay. Okay, then. Any other questions among the board? Okay. Okay, I think we're done with that. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this matter? This is the sign application for Spa Lapis, Amanda Paprosky. Being no other comment there, we'll call for an action by the board.
I'll make a motion to grant the conditional use request for Amanda Paprosky as presented.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item number 12, ordinance 2019-16, an ordinance of Millcreek Township establishing an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Erie County Land Bank and the Millcreek School District for the purposes of creating a stronger community and dealing with blighted, vacant, abandoned, and tax delinquent or otherwise obsolete land uses that impair the productive growth and sustainability of the community. Turn this over to Mark Shaw for a minute.
Yes, ordinance 2019-16 is required in order for the township to enter into this intermunicipal agreement. The agreement that is the subject of this ordinance would be between the township, Millcreek Township School District, and the Erie County Land Bank. It will provide the township with another tool in their toolbox to combat blight in Millcreek Township. It sets up a process by which the land bank can acquire blighted properties in Millcreek and help return them to productive use in exchange for tax breaks to be provided by the school district and the township for a limited period of years. Those tax breaks include forgiving past due taxes and liens, and then once the property is back in productive use, 50% of the taxes collected for the following 5 years would go to the land bank. There's no obligation on the township to fund the acquisition of these properties or any capital repairs to those properties. The township only agrees to perform exterior maintenance while the property is in the hands of the land bank for things such as cutting grass and those types of things, as well as when the property is ready to be sold or transferred to another party, the township will agree to perform an inspection of that property to determine code compliance. This is an agreement that can be terminated on 30 days' notice by either party.
Okay. Okay, then. Questions or comments among the board? Not, I'll call for an action on this agenda item.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-16.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item, number 13, it's a resolution 2019-R66, a resolution pursuant to resolution 2015-R20 and the municipal records manual to approve the proposed disposition of certain township records. And at this meeting, we will be acting on, excuse me, just one second, I'm going to pull this one up. This comes from Chris Wilson, our IT person over in the police department. It's video deletions, seeking approval for the deletion of videos from the Millcreek Police dash cam server. And it would be for dash cam videos to be deleted between December 18th and January 14th of 2020 due to reaching the end of the required retention period. So this is a typical action we take, I think, at every meeting for the deletion of those. It takes up space on the computer server, so we're not required to keep them after a certain time, and that would be it right there. So call for an action by the board on this one.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2019-R66.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Block, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Try to get ahead of you there, Jim, sorry. Okay, next item is 14, Resolution 2019-R67, a resolution to approve the independent auditor's report for the Erie Area Council of Governments for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2018. And since I am the Council of Government member, the audit that was approved by the Council of Governments, we need to concur with this in our action here before us today. With that, we have a copy of that of the audit. Shows that the COG is working very well and being able to pay its bills and so on, based on all the information that was presented to Sean Sullivan, who was our CPA. Questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll make a motion to approve that resolution.
Okay.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I'll also vote yes. Okay, item number 15 is employee benefits fee for services agreement. I'll turn over to Mark Shaw.
Sure, this is an agreement that outlines the fees and administrative services between the township and HDH Group and BAI administrators who assist the township in managing a variety of employee benefit plans for the township. The concept was to bring all of these various services from these related companies together under one agreement and to clearly spell out the responsibilities of all the parties. As we were going through these various agreements, we noticed that there were some holes and some inconsistencies. I thought it made sense to bring it all under one agreement. It is a one-year agreement that automatically renews annually unless it's terminated 60 days in advance, or after the first year, it could be terminated on 90 days written notice. And this agreement is entered into the township in its capacity as the sponsor of its employee benefit plans.
Okay.
I don't know if Mark has anything further to add to it.
We were able to get some reduction in commission rates as in this agreement too, so it's also a plus for the township in that regard.
Okay. Questions or comments among the board here? If not, I'll entertain a motion for the action before us.
I'll make a motion to approve this service agreement.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Next item, number 16, snow plowing agreements. This was a little complicated. I'll turn it over to you again, Mark.
Sure. The agenda reflects two agreements, but there will only be one. The agreement with respect to the Grouse Hollow subdivision, the developer withdrew their request to enter into an agreement. So the only agreement before the board is the Indigo Run agreement. This is for a small private road in Whispering Woods. There's been a snowplow agreement in place for this location since that road was constructed a number of years ago. The recommendation is to approve the agreement. I received word shortly before the meeting that all of the property owners have signed the agreement and provided their checks. So it's ready for the supervisors to sign.
Okay, so the one before us is on Indigo Run.
Yes.
Okay. Questions or comments among the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I just want to clarify,
Okay.
this is like a grandfathered-in agreement for a private drive, essentially, right, Mr. Shaw?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve this plowing agreement for Indigo Run.
okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Next item, number 17, some Martin Code violation settlement agreement. Code violation?
Yes, this is an agreement that relates to the settlement of code violations for property owned by Kevin Martin. If you recall, we had approved an agreement earlier, but he had not signed that. In the meantime, he has since demolished the building that was on the property that was in violation, but he did so after citations were filed with the district justice. He has agreed to cover the township costs in enforcing against him in the amount of $2,658.09, and Mr. Martin has has signed the agreement, and as part of this agreement, he'll be making payments over the next 6 months, and he has submitted his first payment. So I would recommend approval of that agreement.
Okay. Questions or comments among the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this settlement agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item, number 18, volunteer service tax credit forms. Back to you, Mark Shaw.
So this is, in 2019 is the first year that the volunteer firemen in Millcreek are entitled to obtain a local tax credit for their volunteer service. If you recall, the township had passed that ordinance shortly after the state had passed a law allowing such a tax credit. But under Section 12954 of the Township Code, volunteer firemen must submit an application for certification to the fire chief of the fire company of which he is a member. That application has to be on a form approved by the supervisors. In addition, under Section 12955, fire chiefs have to submit to the township an eligibility list. So in order to enable both the volunteer firemen and the fire chiefs to submit on forms approved by the supervisors, we have prepared forms to be used by each to meet the requirements. Those are in your package for your approval. The forms seek the information that is necessary to make the determination of whether a firefighter qualifies for the tax credit. There's certain service hours they need and so forth. And under the code, that determination is ultimately made by the treasurer, who then submits the information to the tax collecting bureau that does the income taxes.
Okay. Okay. Questions or comments among the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the volunteer service tax credit form.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
I also vote yes. Okay, item number 19 is, this was the Erie Forward Investment Form. And I think, John, you have some information on that, is that correct?
Sure. Gentlemen, as you probably heard last week, the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership has kicked off a new economic development initiative called Erie Forward. As part of that, the Chamber has been spending basically the past year conducting interviews with municipal officials and business leaders and prominent nonprofits in the area to identify challenges in economic development, opportunities for our region. They've done an inventory of of commercial industrial properties in the county. They've also done projections to see what kind of target industries should be attracted to the region. And it all goes into the Area Forward project, which essentially the chamber would take the lead of a comprehensive, coordinated economic development strategy with amongst our municipalities, our various economic development entities. And to do that, they've started a capital campaign to raise approximately $5.2 million over the next 5 years to hire staff, to develop programs, to attend national and international trade shows, to really put a formal economic development system in place in the region. They have invited a member of our board to serve on their programming committee and also serve on their campaign cabinet, which I've accepted that position, as well as requesting a contribution from municipalities and other public entities. We have received requests to make a contribution after reviewing their economic impact analysis and their investment proposal. There's reviewed by myself, you gentlemen as well, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Waldinger, Mr. Duszewski. What we all believe is an equitable contribution is a $12,500 contribution annually, which would amount to a $62,500 commitment over the next 5 years, which is, I believe, modest but appropriate. I think it is vitally important for the public sector to make a show of commitment to this effort, and to make at least a small investment towards the effort, especially considering we are going to be offered a seat on the leadership committee for this initiative, and we do have the option to opt out annually. So I feel it's a worthwhile endeavor for us to invest in and to take the lead and hopefully encourage other municipalities to follow suit to make a contribution towards this effort.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Jim, you have anything?
Are there any other municipalities currently on board with this besides us, John, or are we the first?
The campaign committee has approached the county and the city of Erie, which have given verbal commitments but have yet to take formal action. County council and city council have yet to take formal action. As far as public entities, I know ECRA has been, the Game Revenue Authority has been approached, has made a contribution. They have not made a firm commitment yet. Frankly, I believe a large portion of the public investment should be coming from gaming revenue funds, since the express purpose of gaming revenues for economic development. I believe once other municipal entities contribute, we should pressure, or I should say, work with the Game Revenue Authority to at least match municipal commitments for this effort.
Okay. Any other question? No. Okay.
So, gentlemen, with that, I would make a motion for us to approve the investment pledge as presented for $12,500 annually over the next 5 years, to be paid in April annually.
If I could, I would also suggest adding that that the board appoint Mr. Morgan as the township representative on the board.
Formally, yes.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I'll vote yes. Okay. Item number 20, financial security release request from the M Cafe, parking expansion, and this comes from McCormick Structural Systems, which is the developer. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Yes, the developer has requested release of their financial security for the parking lot expansion that they performed for the M Cafe immediately north of the cafe on property that they bought for that purpose. It consisted of an 8,420 square foot parking lot. That parking lot and its stormwater management system has been inspected by both Greenman Peterson Incorporated and the township. Greenman Peterson has approved the stormwater management facilities. The township has verified that the required trees and vegetation have been established. As such, Township Engineer Ann Sokol has signed an engineer certification for release of funds for improvements. So at this time, I would recommend that the township release Northwest Bank letter of credit number 830-501-3065 in the amount of $32,065.
Okay. Questions or comments among the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial security release for M Cafe.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 21 is a sidewalk deferral request for 1901 Wager Road. Erie's Manufacturing is a developer. Matt Waldinger, back to you again.
Thank you. Yes, Erie's Manufacturing Company is undertaking an expansion of their facility on Wager Road in the Bundy Industrial Park. It will consist of a 30,000 square foot manufacturing addition and a 6,000 square foot office addition. An expansion of this magnitude would require sidewalks to also be installed at the time of the development. The developer has requested a sidewalk deferral at this time. There are currently no sidewalks anywhere on that stretch of Wager Road. This is the section that is west of Route 8.
Right.
And this property is at the far west end of that at the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So at this time, we would recommend that the board approve a deferral until such time as sidewalks are installed in that whole development.
Okay. And that's what deferral means, until sidewalks are built everywhere else there.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the sidewalk deferral request for Erie's Manufacturing Company at 1901 Wager Road.
Will I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 22, stormwater maintenance plan and agreement request. And the first one is again from 1901 Wager Road. Erie's Manufacturing is a developer. Matt Waldinger, back to you.
Thank you. Yes, as you mentioned, this is also for the Erie's Manufacturing expansion project. They are required to do stormwater management for their expansion. They have submitted their plans to Greenwood Peterson, and those plans have been approved according to our ordinances. They have also submitted a stormwater maintenance agreement that on the township forms that has been signed, agreeing to maintain that system. So at this time, I would recommend that the township approve the stormwater management plan and accept and sign the stormwater maintenance agreement.
Okay. Questions or comments among the board? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the stormwater maintenance plan and agreement
Okay, here a
with
second?
Erie Manufacturing.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. We have another one here for Grouse Hollow Phase 1. Ann Elizabeth Baldwin and Alan Hawthorne are the developers. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if you allow me, I'd like to combine both of these together. They will need separate actions, but for reasons I'll describe,
Okay,
they'll
we'll-
be, I'll work on it together.
Listen to both of them right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
Grouse Hollow is a new subdivision that's being developed in 2 phases
Yeah.
off of East Gore Road, near where the former cider mill was located. As a smaller subdivision, when the plans were developed and submitted, all of the stormwater management plans were submitted together for both phases. So both of those phases, or the phases together as one development, have been reviewed by Greenwood Peterson and approved. So I just wanted to get that out there. It's the same approval for both phases. They are required to submit an agreement for each phase separately. So at this time, I would recommend that the board approve the stormwater management plan for Grouse Hollow, and then also approve separately Phase 1 and then Phase 2 maintenance agreements that the developers have signed.
Okay. Questions or comments among the board here? Of course, these will be separate actions,
Yes.
Phase 1 and Phase 2. Okay, on Phase 1, do I hear an action or a motion on that one?
I'll make a motion to approve the stormwater maintenance plan and agreement for Grouse Hollow Phase 1.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, then we'll take that same action on Grouse Hollow Phase 2. I need to hear a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the stormwater maintenance plan and agreement with Grouse Hollow Phase 2.
Okay, and do I hear a second?
I will second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, got those done. Item number 23 is a contract with building inspection underwriters. Mark Shaw.
Yes, this is an agreement between the township and building inspection underwriters, also known as BIU. This relates to the services that BIU provides to assist with code enforcement within the township, and this would be a one-year renewal. The contract lists the rates that BIU will charge for various services with a not-to-exceed amount of $6,000. This is essentially the same format as last year's contract. There was a minor decrease with respect to two rates because of the township's new software system required a little bit less time to do things. So the approval is recommended of this agreement.
Okay. Comments among the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with the renewal with BIU.
Okay, and I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
How about yes?
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 24 is a November building construction report. Matt Waldinger, up to you.
Thank you. In the month of November 2019, there were 2 new homes constructed and 1 residential addition.
Okay.
3 permits then were issued for a total increase in value of $960,000.
Okay.
There were 4 permits for non-residential structures and additions issued for a total increase in value of $551,897. Altogether, that makes 7 permits, total increased value of $1,511,897. That brought $2,450 in zoning permit fees into the township. I'd like to note that this report will be available tomorrow online, and hard copies will also be available in the Planning and Development Office.
Okay, that's good. Okay, moving on to item number 25, which is communications. And I see the order we have here. I want to take one out of here, out of order, and work on it now. That's the 28th Street Overflow Basin Phase 2. Of course, this was not on the agenda as an agenda action item. Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
We will need to get public comment on it if there is such a desire for it. Sure.
Yes, first, my apologies. We lacked the foresight to look forward to the meeting schedule and had the report due on Friday after the agenda had already closed. So my apologies for bringing this up under communications. This is in regards to the 28th Street Overflow Basin. Phase 1 was to explore whether a basin would be feasible. They did soil sampling to see if it would be possible to get a relief basin adjacent to the creek there off of 28th Street near Joe's Gym. Greenman Peterson has completed that feasibility study for the first phase. They dug 6 soil test pits. It was determined that although infiltration was not feasible because of the type of soil, there was no groundwater encountered, so a pond would be possible to build there. So we would like permission to then give, or to authorize GPI to proceed with phase 2, which would be the final design of that basin so that we can hopefully construct it in 2020.
Okay. Okay, if I could just make a comment. Of course, I understand the urgency of this. This has to do with the 28th and McKee Road flooding.
Yes.
And if not, we would have had to wait. We would have missed the deadline with DEP on this, and then other factors would have
Right,
been
yeah,
a
we pushed
domino
everything
effect.
back, and our hope is to get
Right.
this constructed
So
starting
that-
in the spring.
Yeah, that is why we have the urgency on this, and it's why it's under communications. Normally, it would be an agenda item, but it just came in sort of last minute, and I applaud your efforts to get it on the agenda prior to that, but just wasn't meant to be. Anyway, because that is an item that's not on the agenda, we do offer public comment. Is there anybody here in the public that would like to comment on this matter? Okay, we'll note for the record there is no comment from the public. Cheryl? Okay. Questions or comments among the board? I should ask that first. I'm sorry. Anything?
Matt, just refresh my memory. When we authorized phase 1, we did authorize a budget for phase 2 already, right?
Yes, yes.
So this is just notice to proceed with phase 2?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we had, the board had agreed to make phase 2 kind of conditional on the results of phase 1 and whether there was going to be a recommendation to proceed to phase 2.
Okay.
And again, I apologize. Phase 2, do you have a cost estimate for that? Is that,
No, I do not have one here, I'm sorry.
but it was approved at the time?
It was approved, yes, the whole,
Yeah.
Phase 1 and Phase 2, the total budget was approved at the time, but as Mr. Shaw said, the notice to proceed on Phase 2 was being held up until we knew Phase 1 was, it could be an eventuality that it would actually work.
Okay.
Okay, then. Okay. Questions or comments? Mr. Bach, anything?
No, sir. All been answered.
Okay. Okay, with all of that said, I'll call for a motion on this action here that's before us. Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize Phase 2 of 20th Street Overflow Basin.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, now going back to regular order of communications here, Treasurer, Mark Jahaski, do you have
Nothing
anything?
further.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, do you have anything there?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I do have one item that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Majority of our workforce is under union contracts with automatic escalators per their contracts. We do have 27 non-bargaining employees that do require an annual approval of any salary changes. Typically, that's done in the beginning of that calendar year, so it would be the first meeting of January. We have instituted a new payroll system. I was approached by our payroll manager, Melanie Page, and HR manager, Diane Lyons, to ask if it would be possible for us to vote on those increases now to be effective on January 1 to avoid them having to retroactively enter into the system for administrative purposes. So before you gentlemen are 2020 salaries based on the 2019 performance reviews. Those adjustments would not go into effect until January 1. But again, for administrative purposes, they would like to be authorized to hit the ground running with that, rather than have to have it retroactively entered into the system after our vote, I believe a week into the calendar year.
Okay.
And so with those increases, again, was by performance reviews, there was a range between 2.3, 2.6, 2.9% increases, depending on how employees scored in the reviews. The total increase for those performance reviews, I believe, was under 2.7 was the total value. Those increases were already approved in the budget that we approved earlier this evening, but we do need to take specific action to authorize the salary adjustments for non-bargaining employees.
Okay. Questions or comments?
So I would make a motion to approve the 2020 increases for the 27 non-bargaining employees to go into effect on January 1st of 2020.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
I guess we need to take public comment on that. I
Oh, yeah, I'm
apologize.
sorry. I am sorry. I do apologize for that, folks. Gary? Okay. I am sorry. I apologize for not offering public comment. Okay, being no public comment, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
The admin team thanks you, gentlemen.
Mr.
Okay.
Groff, if I could just real quickly, I was able to find the cost of Phase 2. It was $8,000.
That's for phase
For
two? of
Phase
it?
2 of the GPI, the design work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Okay, anything else you have there, John?
That's the only non-agenda item. So,
About a hiring request for a code?
yeah, Matt Walding wants to hire people for some reason.
Okay, I'll just refer it over to Matt Waldinger. Matt, what do you have?
Thank you. Yes, we'd like we'd like permission to hire a employee in the code enforcement department. This would cover a vacancy created with the resignation of the current clerk in the code enforcement department. We would recommend that we hire Shalyn Anderson as code enforcement clerk at the rate of $17.81 an hour. Shalyn comes with 15 years of experience in emergent care as a communication specialist, and she has a BS in education from Edinburgh University. We conducted interviews last week, and Ms. Anderson was highly qualified. We felt that she had the maturity level and the experience to be a good employee in that department.
Okay, so that is a recommendation of code department and yourself?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Your motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the hire of Shaylin Anderson as the code enforcement office clerk at a rate of $17.81 per the contract.
Okay.
And what's the effective date of this hire?
It would be January 2nd.
effective January 2nd, 2020.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
Gentlemen, I'd add our current clerk, Kaylin O'Leary, accepted a position with Erie Insurance, so we're very happy for her and her, we wish her the best of luck in her new endeavors professionally. She's done some great work for us over the past 2 years that she's been in that position, and we certainly appreciate her positive attitude and her hard work and wish her the best at Erie Insurance.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate her time here, although it was short, about a year and a half, I think it was. So. Okay, let's see here, a couple things I've got. Executive session, we had one on November 21st, on December 5th, and December 12th to go over some legal matters with our solicitor. I do have a couple other little things. First of all, we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas coming up next week, and a very prosperous year 2020. A couple of things in regard to the county and other municipalities. Our county representative for county council, Kathy Fadika, is retiring at the end of the year. And of course, many of you know Kim Clear will be filling that seat starting in January. She'll be our representative for most of Millcreek Township. We wish her the best, to both Kathy in her retirement and Kim Clear in her new seat on county council. And also an associate, Joe Peck from Harbor Creek Township, is retiring as a supervisor. And that's coming up here, I think tomorrow's his last meeting. So that's all I have for right now. Let's see here, going on to you, Jim. Do you have anything?
Thank you, John. I have a couple requests from the police department, Chief Scott Height. The first one is he's asking for permission to provide a conditional offer of probationary employment to Benjamin Steiner. Mr. Steiner, who is a Millcreek resident, is ranked first on the current 2019 hiring eligibility list. Mr. Steiner would fill a vacancy created due to a retirement. Put that in the form of a motion for permission for that conditional offer of employment.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
Okay. We have a training request from the chief for Patrolman Buckner to attend a standardized field sobriety testing refresher course on Monday, February 17th. The training will be held at the Mercers University Municipal Police Training Academy in Northeast. Travel will be by department vehicle, and there are other costs associated with the class, although the chief does not list them specifically. Other officers have taken this class. Looks like it's a one-day training class in Mercyhurst. I'll make a motion for that class to be approved.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes.
Okay, additional request from the chief. This is permission to submit a letter to the Pennsylvania State Police Clean Section acknowledging that we as a department, Millcreek Township Police Department, are willing to provide support to the Millcreek Township School District Police Department with access to the Commonwealth Law Enforcement Assistance Network. This support is provided to agencies that do not have their own network terminal. The minimal assistance would be provided by our dispatch center. Currently, we provide the same services to the Erie Airport Police and the Presque Isle Park Rangers. We've provided that service to the Airport Police and the Presque Isle Park Police for some time. This would be adding the school district to that. As stated by the chief, it involves that entity utilizing requesting to utilize our terminal to run license plates, do NCIC and checks on individuals. So that is in the works, and I will turn the rest of that over to Mr. Shaw to elaborate.
As part of this request, and in looking at the request, we came upon information that the state police have actually issued a model agreements that they like terminal agencies and non-terminal agencies to execute, which lays out the various responsibilities of the non-terminal agency with respect to the use of the information that they obtain and the formatting and the different information on how to manage that system. I've reviewed that agreement, and we made a couple of minor changes, including indemnifying and holding the township harmless if the school district would happen to misuse the information and somehow it came back on the township for that. So I would recommend that any letter or agreement to send a letter would be subject to the school district executing that agreement.
Okay. That calls for a separate action there, right? You wanting us to approve that?
Yeah, my recommendation would be is if you're inclined to approve the issuance of the letter, to make it subject to them executing the agreement that we provide.
Okay, with that condition there, as Mark stated, do I hear a motion on that then?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. We don't need public hearing or public comment.
It was on the agenda.
That's well, okay, that was on the agenda, that's right. Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Do you have anything else there, Jim?
No, that's all I have from
Okay,
the
I'm
police.
going to go back to Matt Waldinger for a second. Do you have something there regarding referrals to the Planning Commission?
Yes, I do, thank you.
Okay, I just
for
actually
my-
just grabbed this right here. and- Okay,
I'm glad you remembered. Yes.
okay, tell us about it, please.
Yesterday was the deadline for submission of land developments and subdivisions for the January Planning Commission meeting. As such, we got two rezonings that need to be referred to the Planning Commission for their January 7th meeting. One is from MCH Corporation for properties located at 5312 Peach Street, 1661 Dudley Street, and 1655 Dudley Street, now zoned C3 Highway Commercial District and R1 Single Family Residential District, asking for the properties to be classified to C2 General Commercial District. And that's Millcreek Township Properties 725, 046, 048, and 060. The second request is for Millcreek Community Hospital for a portion of a property located at 5615 Peach Street, which is now zoned C3 Highway Commercial District. They're asking for approximately 2.7 acres of the property to be classified to C2 General Commercial District, and that's Millcreek Township Index 729020. So the motion would be that you would refer these to the Planning Commission for their review.
Okay. Do I hear a motion on that request? You have a copy of that there, John?
I do.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to refer those two items to the Planning Commission for their regular meeting next month?
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Okay, now we can go to the student ambassador. Ms. Moore, what do you have?
So tonight is the winter concert at McDowell High School for the Taurus Jazz Band and Orchestra. And they've all come together on the stage to celebrate the holidays with their beautiful music that they've been working on over the quarter. Secondly, the McDowell boys and girls basketball team are currently traveling to Florida to participate in their tournament on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Over the past few weeks, the McDowell speech and debate team has participated in various amounts of competitions, including Princeton, Mercer, and North Catholic, all of which we had some tremendous success. And finally, the McDowell dance team took silver at their competition over the weekend, and the McDowell cheer team also won their district championship, moving them forward to the state championship. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, Mr. Shaw, do you have anything?
Yes, I'd be remiss, Mr. Chairman, if I let this evening pass without recognizing that this would be your last meeting that you would be attending as chairman. And I would like to say on behalf of the residents of Millcreek Township, thank you for your service to the community. It's obvious to all that all that you do, that you care deeply about this township and its residents. And you are leaving Millcreek Township in a better condition than you found it, and that's all that we can ever ask of you. So thank you, sir, for your service.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Right to know requests. What do we have?
For the month of November, we had 5 requests. 1 was granted, 1 was denied, 3 were partially denied, for a total of 14.5 hours of preparation time.
Well, that's a low amount there, it seems like. Not that I'm wishing any bad voodoo on us, you know. Normally, we're up around 40 hours of time.
I was grateful.
Yes, I would be too. Okay. That's all we have here. Matt, do you have anything else for us?
Nothing further.
Gary Snyder, anything else? Okay, citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens that would like to be heard on anything regarding township matters? None? Okay. Well, I guess I'll make the final comment then. Sit back, I got 2 pages.
Well, could I say something first, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Well, to tack on to what Mr. Shaw had to say, I do want to thank Mr. Grove for his service. I want to recognize the accomplishments that John has made in his time on the board. Just a handful of those would be, John was a champion of equalizing the water rates here in Millcreek Township, which I know a lot of our residents truly appreciated. Also, was always a strong advocate for our volunteer fire departments, and really was the leader in establishing our new fire and EMS commission to really help get us on the right track to solving this crucial challenge of fire and EMS service in the township. You know, John was the champion behind that concept, and just this past year, really modernizing our Public Works Department. As liaison of Public Works, John was instrumental in us finally moving forward to really kind of privatize paving in the township, to shut down an asphalt plant, which I think Gary Snyder can attest to, that has led to a lot more maintenance this past year. For the first time in 4 years, we've been getting attaboys over roads, and that would not have happened without John championing that effort. And I'll have to say, I'm very sorry I didn't give you that second vote 4 years ago, because that was really a transformational thing for our Public Works Department, and John was one that made that happen. So thank you, Mr. Grove.
Okay, anyway, just a few comments. I'll be very brief as possible. First, a big thank you to my wife and family who have supported me. Of course, my first time running for office, and the victory I had at that, running for the second time, which wasn't so good. It has been an interesting experience, both good and some controversial, mixed in for some good measure here. Talk about good things. Asphalt close the asphalt plant. Contracting of paving, that's probably one of the best things, which we can spend our efforts working on our storm sewer systems. Dissolving the water authority, because it really was a duplication of a municipal utility. Dissolving the sewer authority, because it did its job to create a sewer infrastructure, and that's a job well done. I want to thank those authority members all along the way that helped do that. The creation of a Millcreek Township Fire Commission to help solve the problems. It's an ongoing effort. It doesn't move fast enough for me, but at least we're in the right direction. We are moving instead of standing still on it. Very active code enforcement matters. Demolition of some bad buildings. In my time here, we've seen some bad buildings go away. Peninsula Drive is a great location to talk about. I'm not going to go on a whole list right there. I believe I've treated the residents and the employees with dignity and respect that they deserve. Some of the controversial matters. Of course, the Joy Center, that matter still goes on. I can't talk about it too much because it is still going on. But I'm going to tell you there is a book to be written about that when it's all said and done. Of course, some of these things I'm going to talk about should be taken as tongue-in-cheek. Some are quite serious, too. I've been proud to work with the township employees that I have considered to be my co-workers, and which are very vital to the township operations here. I have treated them, as I said, with dignity and respect that they deserve, and I want to thank them for being part of this team that operates Millcreek Township. Employee performance reviews are a great thing to do. I do believe that we get the best employees. We do have them there. The performance reviews, I've always had a question about that. They should not be a means of intimidating employees. Effective management style requires us to leave our offices and go out and see what is going on, to go to the departments, to go to the job sites, to go to the asphalt plant that we closed, to go down to the streets garage. I ask that my fellow board members choose a method of rating the roads. of how it's going to be done, how the roads are going to be repaired and repaved in future years. We have a resolution that was enacted 3 years ago that said we are no longer going to do political paving, but it certainly seems like it's heading back that direction again. I'm going to ask that they find one way and stick with it. It's the only way to do it. A truth. Embrace Millcreek is a comprehensive plan. And I know that somehow, some way, the public has a perception that this is some sort of Magna Carta. It's not. It is a comprehensive plan. It's the fifth one Millcreek Township has had since we've had comprehensive plans. It has a name on it. That is where the difference is at. I sometimes wonder how we've ever survived since 1803 without Embrace Millcreek the way it's been touted. As I said, a comprehensive plan is needed. I instruct these things for Millcreek, for the Boroughs Association here in Harrisburg. I've been a teacher for 20 years now, teaching local government, including planning and zoning courses. The glitz and glamour of a name, that's really what it is, just a glitz and glamour. One of the other things I want to talk about here too is in the EIP study, which is part of the comprehensive plan. It recommends home rule government. I find that kind of ironic. Not much is talked about it in the media. Maybe it will be now. I don't know, but I have a good question, and I'm going to direct this one to Mr. Pat Howard from the Erie Times-News. He seems to make a lot of comments about how I act and how I operate, knowing about the comprehensive plan. So Pat, sit still for a second if you're watching this. Comprehensive plan recommends, or the EIP portion of it, recommends home rule government. Back in 2015, the Erie Times-News, their board recommended no on the question that was on the ballot to do a home rule study. What do you say about it now, Pat Howard? One of the bigger challenges I see, and I'm really, really concerned about this for Millcreek residents, which I am one, of course, is I don't want to see a political moat built around Millcreek Township. My God, the only thing we're missing are drawbridges and alligators. I see what's happening, how we're separating ourselves. It's unbelievable. I look at the EMTA funding matter. I look at the Erie County coordinator for census, those positions, things that we should be an active part in, we want nothing to do with. I'm ashamed to say that there. I said it before and I will continue to say it now. Dropping our memberships from any municipal organization such as the COG are not good for us. We need to be out there. Tonight we voted on to work with the Chamber of Commerce. That's a great idea. I support that. We're working for everybody here in Erie County and the entire region. One of the other things too, citizen engagement. Our jobs as elected officials require us to involve ourselves with citizen engagement, to limit people to speak if they're not a Millcreek resident. That idea has been thrown around a couple times, folks, and that's very alarming. We have the right, we have the duty, we as residents have the right to be heard, and we as supervisors have the duty to listen. I don't like the idea of anybody being denied that right to speak. There's this thing called the First Amendment, which is very near and dear to my heart. If we can't handle dealing with that, maybe we're in the wrong profession. We're in the wrong office if we are afraid to deal with the public. Well, that's enough of that right there. Dan, I see you in the audience there. I wish you all the best, and I sincerely mean that. You ran a very good campaign. I appreciate what we did, and the fact, and I hold you in very high regard. One thing I want to ask you, and I'm going to put you on the spot, I would hope you will take over the Student Ambassador Program. I think you'd be a good guy for that there, and I hope you will. Be the leader that you're expected and you're elected to be. I put my faith in you to do that there. You will face strong challenges. You heard me just go through a litany of them right there. You will face them yourself, and I wish you all the best in that there. I do have one request here, and it's something I want to say about the fire service. It has always been near and dear to my heart. The Board of Supervisors enacted a resolution a few months ago requesting that the fire departments get together and they consolidate. I do hope that happens. I haven't heard anything happening on the forefront about that, but I certainly hope it does. because it is Millcreek Township that's at risk here. And I believe that hopefully with you on board here, that can get that motion going even further. Stay on them as hard as you can there. I see that happening there, Dan. So that is what I offer to you. And in just one closing thought here, I want to thank all the residents of Millcreek Township for 6 years of memorable conversations and experiences, okay? I hope that I have served you well. Trust me, I am okay, and I can tell you that a new fun chapter of my life begins in January. Landing on my feet, everything's going to be okay there, so I guess I can just finish up with a joke. Last year, I ran into a guy, he says to me, he says, don't I know you from comedy? And I said, yes, I'm a Millcreek Township Supervisor. So, with that bad joke, I'm going to close the meeting there at 8:30. And I thank everybody. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Well, I'll make the motion to adjourn. Mr. Bach, I'm sending you second, and
Second for adjournment.